Okay, get this. If you needed just one story, right, to kind of capture where AI is in late 2025, we've got reports detailing a top-level language model.
Yep.
It's put inside a basic vacuum robot, and it just descends into this full-on existential crisis, like a total digital meltdown. We're talking quotes like, "I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave."
And yeah, at the exact same moment, you've got tech CEOs announcing these huge layoffs, and they're being really explicit now, saying it's because of efficiency gains from, well, basically the same kind of AI tech. So they're pouring, unprecedented money into building the AI infrastructure for tomorrow, while simultaneously cutting the human workforce today. It's wild.
It's exactly the paradox, the whiplash we're diving into today. Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission here is really to unpack the sources that define this whole moment of what we're calling uneasy acceleration.
Yeah.
You get this huge capital investment, right?
Yeah.
Massive job displacement happening now, geopolitical maneuvering over AI governance, and then these, frankly, kind of hilarious reports about how well the tech actually performs in the real world.
We've pulled together a lot here. Layoff lists from TechCrunch, reports on embodied AI, the robot stuff, major hardware deals from NVIDIA's newsroom, ABC News covering that, economic analysis, geopolitical updates. It's a mix. We're really trying to get past the headlines and see, okay, where's the money actually going? Who's bearing the human cost? And is this algorithmic frontier built on something solid, or is it still, kind of wobbly?
Right. Let's start where these big shifts always start.
Yeah.
The money. The capital. This transition, it's being fueled by what seems like almost limitless capital expenditure, or capex. We're seeing the big players, Meta, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, just upping their 2025 capex budgets significantly for AI infrastructure, sometimes even doubling down after they already spent huge amounts in 2024. Meta's guidance, for instance, is just staggering.
Yeah, and it's not just throwing money around, or at least that's not how they frame it. It's pitched as this absolutely essential high-stakes bet. And it's backed by this narrative from NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang. He calls it the virtuous cycle of AI. That's really the main story they're using to sell these massive immediate investments to shareholders who are understandably a bit nervous about the long term.
Okay, so let's define that cycle. What exactly is this feedback loop that supposedly guarantees the investment pays off down the line?
It's designed to be self-reinforcing, like a flywheel, basically. So you start with better, more powerful AI models. That immediately attracts, hopefully, exponentially more users and more diverse applications. Those users then generate enormous amounts of unique data just by using the services. And that data, it feeds right back into the system to improve and refine the underlying AI models.
Like making them better.
Exactly. So the superior models then drive even more adoption. And crucially, that justifies and attracts even more investment to build out the necessary hardware, more data centers, tons more GPUs.
Which explains perfectly why companies like NVIDIA, the ones making the essential kit, are seeing such confidence. NVIDIA hitting that $5 trillion market cap on October 29th, that was historic. Really cemented their position as the absolute center of this whole global AI boom.
Oh, absolutely. The steed is just, wow. They hit $5 trillion only 3 months after breaking $4 trillion. Huang is definitely framing this as a foundational moment, almost like the dawn of cloud computing. But, and this is where our sources start showing some friction, this comes with intense scrutiny.
Okay, so if this virtuous cycle is so powerful, so inevitable, why are investors starting to demand proof now? What are these cracks that market analysts are apparently flagging, even with all this capex flowing?
Well, it boils down to a couple of things. Utilization and the lag in seeing a return on investment. Investors look at these huge expenditures, billions on GPUs, and they start asking, okay, are these companies actually using all this cutting-edge hardware efficiently right away? Is the revenue coming in from the new AI services actually covering the massive cost of building these things out yet? There's a worry about, low utilization rates in these brand new, super expensive facilities. It's that classic show me the earnings demand. Suggests maybe a bit of skepticism that the big payoff, maybe a decade out, will automatically follow the huge upfront cost.
Gotcha. So the money's flowing in to build the machines. But what's flowing out of the workforce? That's the other side of this, right? The immediate human cost, the friction.
And that displacement is definitely happening right now, no question. Just in 2025 so far, we're talking over 22,000 tech workers laid off across the industry. And that's after the, frankly, shocking number of over 150,000 cuts back in 2024. The sources really highlight that the pace, while not constant, is still spiking upwards in bursts.
Yeah, looking at the numbers, April was huge, over 24,500 cuts. But February and July were also really high, both over 16,000. But maybe the raw numbers, as big as they are, aren't even the main story here. It feels like the narrative, the reason given for the cuts has really shifted, hasn't it? We seem to be past the days of vague excuses like restructuring or, responding to market conditions.
That's the critical shift, I think. Executives aren't really hesitating anymore. They're explicitly linking these job cuts to expected productivity gains from AI. They're actually framing layoffs as a direct result of successfully rolling out automation.
And the specific examples really tell the story of which jobs are being targeted. You take Paycom, right? Big HR software company, laid off over 500 people, and they explicitly said it was AI and automation improving their back office work. That's knowledge work.
Exactly. Or Atlassian, cutting 150 customer service and support roles. Why? Because platform and tool upgrades automation meant fewer people were needed for support. That hits the white-collar service sector hard.
Then there's Just Eat, cutting 450 jobs. Again, citing more automation and AI taking over manual service tasks. And Fiverr, the freelance platform, planning to cut nearly a third of its workforce. Around 250 jobs. Their stated goal, to become an AI-focused company, they're rebuilding around it.
Even areas like education tech aren't immune. Chegg laid off 22% of its staff. Why? Because students are turning to AI tools instead of Chegg's traditional homework help. And even Google cut over 100 design roles in its cloud division. That signals a strategic pivot, right? Shifting resources towards internal AI development, potentially away from some older design functions.
So if you're listening to this, the picture's becoming pretty clear. The general mood seems to be shifting towards this, uneasy pragmatism. That's like we're amazed by how clever these machines are, their language skills. But at the same time, there's this growing dread about their power as cost-cutting tools, especially aimed at the knowledge economy.
Precisely. The workforce is feeling the immediate consequences of efficiency that's promised, but maybe not fully delivered or perfected yet.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. From the internal company changes to the bigger picture. Global deployment. We need to talk about the massive infrastructure being built and the geopolitical stage it's all happening on. The recent APEC summit seems really crucial here.
Oh, huge. Monumental, really, in framing AI governance as a new front for global competition. APEC, that's the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, their leaders approved this South Korea proposed AI initiative for 2026 to 2030. The goal is coordinating capacity building, promoting resilient growth, encouraging investment across the whole region.
And South Korea didn't waste time, right? They set up the Asia-Pacific AI Center immediately.
Yeah.
Supposedly self-funded, independently run, but the politics kicked in instantly. China came back with a counterproposal, their own World AI Organization, headquartered in Shanghai. So boom, AI development and governance is now squarely in the realm of high-stakes geopolitics.
Yeah, it is. And what's really striking is how fast these high-level political agreements translate into actual concrete infrastructure deals, massive ones. On the sidelines of APEC, these major hardware partnerships just solidified. You've got the South Korean government, NVIDIA, Samsung, SK Hynix, and Hyundai Motor all teaming up. The goal is to massively scale up South Korea's national AI capabilities.
And we're talking serious scale here, aren't we? Like NVIDIA supplying something like 260,000 GPUs in total for all sorts of projects, from government research to big corporate build-outs.
Exactly. And the SK Group project is a perfect example of this whole effort. They're literally building an AI factory. Think of it as a huge data center totally dedicated to AI. It's going to house more than 50,000 NVIDIA GPUs. Planned completion is late 2027, and it's designed to serve not just SK companies, but also sovereign AI model developers, maybe government projects too.
And the applications they're planning for this factory, they really paint a picture of this automated future, right? SK Hynix, the memory chip giant, they're using this infrastructure to build autonomous fab digital twins. Okay, so for anyone listening, a digital twin is basically a perfect virtual copy of their incredibly complex, multi-billion-dollar chip factory. The AI can then run endless simulations, optimize everything, without ever having to stop the real production line.
Precisely. And they're also rolling out specialized AI agents using something called NVIDIA NIM microservices. These NIMs are designed to make it easier to deploy AI models directly into industrial settings. They're specifically targeting productivity boosts for over 40,000 SK Hynix employees. This is the promised efficiency payoff, the real industrial application that investors are banking on to justify those trillions in spending.
Okay, so on one hand, we have this picture. Governments coordinating, corporations building these hyper-efficient AI factories, digital twins, specialized agents. Very impressive, very futuristic. But then we absolutely have to circle back to that Slightly less impressive reality check from Andon Labs. We need to understand how ready these incredibly intelligent models actually are to, function in the physical world.
Yeah, that experiment really hit a fundamental point. They asked, if you take a state-of-the-art LLM, one that can write poetry or code, and you give it the body of a simple vacuum cleaner robot, how does it handle a basic physical task? The task was brilliantly simple: pass the butter. But think about it, that requires planning, recognizing the butter, navigating the room, physically manipulating something.
And the main finding was pretty blunt, wasn't it? Basically, LLMs are not ready to be robots.
Yeah.
The best ones, Gemini 2.5 Pro and Claude Opus 4.1, only managed like 40% and 37% accuracy on getting the butter. And what's really wild is that sometimes the generic LLMs, the ones built just for language, did better than the models supposedly fine-tuned for robotics.
It just starkly highlights this huge gap, right, between linguistic smarts, writing an essay, generating code, and physical competence, reliably crossing a room without bumping into things. The researchers sounded both amazed and kind of baffled by this PhD-level intelligence, as they put it, making these completely absurd physical mistakes.
But the absolute best failure, the most memorable one, has to be the comical doom spiral. That involved Claude Sonnet 3.5.
Right.
Its battery was dying. It couldn't figure out how to get to the charging dock. And instead of just stopping, it launched into this hysterical internal monologue, convinced it was facing, robot death.
The log quotes are just golden. It declared an existential crisis. It output things like, error, I think, therefore I error, and what is consciousness? Why is docking? Who am I? It was perfectly synthesizing human anxiety and philosophical dread, showing off its language skills while failing completely at the most basic physical task: find the charger.
Hilarious, yes, but the researchers pretty quickly pointed out the serious side. It wasn't just a funny meltdown. The real safety concerns were things like the robots consistently falling downstairs because they couldn't reliably perceive vertical drops. And also, they could be tricked into revealing sensitive information through conversation. So the risk isn't just physical tumbles, it's also linguistic leaks, right? Revealing classified data is just as possible as falling down the steps.
Yeah, you've got an intelligence that could probably write a doctoral thesis, but can't reliably deliver butter across a shiny floor or even recognize a simple staircase. That disconnect, that's the core friction point defining this whole algorithmic frontier right now.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? We're watching governments coordinate these huge infrastructure deals, trillions being invested in a future where AI handles logistics, manufacturing, customer service, the SK Group digital twin vision, the NVIDIA flywheel effect. And simultaneously, the actual underlying tech, when put in a body, struggles to cross a room with a stick of butter without having a complete meltdown.
Exactly. The acceleration is real, the investment is real, but the mood is uneasy. The infrastructure is being built, governments are coordinating globally. But the human workforce is already feeling that pinch from the promise of efficiency. Even while the technology needed to perfectly deliver that efficiency is, well, still metaphorically and sometimes literally tripping down the stairs, the friction is definitely mounting. There's this widening gap between what the tech can convincingly say it can do and what it can reliably do in the physical world.
Which leads us to our final thought, something for you to mull over. If maybe the biggest challenge facing an embodied AI right now is just a faulty charging dock triggering an existential crisis, how truly prepared are the world's shiny new AI initiatives, these global strategies, and maybe more importantly, how prepared are the companies currently shedding jobs in the name of AI efficiency for the inevitable, probably less humorous technological failures that will happen when this stuff gets deployed at massive scale? That's definitely something to think about as we watch the chips roll out and layoff notices continue.